These problems are a little bit tricky because if you don't read carefully, it looks at first glance like it's the same old midpoint formula we've been doing all along. They give you two coordinates, you see the word midpoint is highlighted, but when you read closely, you see that it's really something a little bit different. In fact, we're working backwards to solve these problems. They're giving you one endpoint. They're also telling you where the midpoint is of this segment, and then asking you to find the other endpoint. So let me go ahead and show you how I do these. I'm a very visual person, so the first thing that I do is I make a little picture of what's going on here. So for example, I'm going to say one of my endpoints J, and I'm going to label that 1, 4. Over here is the midpoint they've given me, and I'll label that 2, 1. And then what I'm asked to find is somewhere out here, the other endpoint of the segment, which I don't know. So what I do when I think of these problems is I think of trying to cross a river. I'm trying to, the river's too long to cross all the way, so what I want to do is I want to step halfway. I want to start here to the edge of the river and step halfway to get to this midpoint, like a stepping stone in the river, and then take an equal step to get to the other end of the river over here. So what that means for this problem is, let's start with the x values. I'm going to draw an arrow connecting my two x values, and I see that I'm going from 1 to 2. And so I think in my head, okay, well, what do I have to do to go from 1 to 2? And all I'm doing is I'm adding 1. I'm taking a step of 1 to get there. Because that stepping stone is right in the middle of the river, I know that I need to do an equal size step to get to the end of the river. So I'm going to draw another arrow pointing to the other edge of the segment, or the river in my metaphor. And I know I have to add a 1 because I want to do the same step I did before. So I began at 1, I added 1 and ended up with 2. I'm going to add 1 again from where I left off and end up with 3. 2 plus 1 gets me 3. Are you with me? If not, go back and rewatch or ask me in class. Let's do the same thing but with the y. So let's draw another arrow, a bridge, to connect our y values. I'm beginning at 4 and ending up at 1. So I think in my head, what do I do to do that? I'm subtracting 3 in that step. To get from 4 to 1, I subtract 3. Take an equal size step to get to the end. So I want to subtract 3 again. My middle stepping stone was at a 1. I want to subtract 3 from that. 1 minus 3 gets me negative 2 as my other endpoint. Now, a really great way to check these problems is, because you know the midpoint formula from your notes or from the other videos, here's one of your endpoints, 3, negative 2. Here's your beginning endpoint, 1, 4. Go ahead and use that midpoint formula to check and see if it does actually work out to be this midpoint that they gave you, 2, 1. If you think you got it, go ahead and try this, pause the video, try this next problem. My work will show up in just a couple seconds. Otherwise, ask me in class, email me a question if you need some clarification. There you go, negative 8, 6 should be your other endpoint. Did you get it right? Hope so.